Imagine writing music so good and having such a distinct sound that you get a literal chord named after you. And in the case of Jimi Hendrix, that's exactly what happened. The Hendrix Chord, as it's known, maybe more so in the guitar world, which is one of the reasons I want to talk about it in this video today, because there's a lot of great examples of it. And coming from more of like the jazz piano background, that chord gets used a ton, even in a completely different context. And I want to look at how exactly that is and some of the cool sounds we can get from it. So let's check out Purple Haze, which is often cited as one of the most popular sources that Jimi Hendrix used this chord. Check this out. Okay, there it is. So in the beginning, actually, that's really cool because we have this just straight up tritone, right? We're in E in this tune, just a tritone. What better way to start on? Is it like an octave thing? Yeah, literally, that's the bass is playing E's and Jimmy's playing B flats. That's cool. But anyways, when the chord comes in, so right there, that's the chord. The chord, which many of you probably already know, is a dominant 7th chord with a sharp 9. Now this is one of the coolest sounds ever, because it's both, weirdly, kind of like both minor and major. It's like, what even is this chord? Do we call it major? Do we call it minor? Because it's got both the minor third and the major third. We call it major, it's a dominant chord, but we add what is, rather than the minor third, we call it the sharp 9th in this context. I mean, even on piano, it just sounds so cool. But it's such a classic sound that's associated with Jimi Hendrix. I mean, we can hear it again over here in Crosstown Traffic. This is a great one, too. Right here at the beginning. There you go, right? And in fact, in both of these tunes, let's check it out here in Purple Haze, when the vocals come in, it's on the minor third. Right? That's the first note. And also in Crosstown Traffic, check this out. There it is. That E flat, that minor third, is the first note that Jimmy sings there. Unbelievable. But Jimi Hendrix isn't the only place where we hear the Hendrix chord. That dominant 7th with a sharp 9 shows up even before Purple Haze in 1966 from none other than the Beatles.
1, 2.
Not here. Right there. There it is. Here we're in D, right? So when we start off this tune, we're just playing a D dominant chord. That's it, right? There it is. D dominant, D with a D major with a dominant 7th, right? A flat 7, and the sharp 9. So we get that crunch of both the major third and the minor third. What a cool usage there. And in Taxman, I think it's like especially cool because obviously the whole song is about the Taxman, and you get this like crunchy like what is that, right? It's weird. It's like it's dissonant, but it also just sounds super cool. Why does this work, right? Why can we get away with this sound, right? And we can take that all over the place. All over, right? So if I could play the piano, actually. So the sharp 9 chord, it's kind of like what happens if you were to play a lot of blues-based stuff, but the blues scale doesn't contain the major third, right? So it's like we need the minor third because let's take it in C, right? That's the C blues scale. But nowhere in there do we have a third. So if we're playing a dominant chord, but we want to play a lot of blues stuff, we're gonna get that crunch. So it's almost like a byproduct of just naturally wanting to have a lot of blues language over a dominant chord. You're gonna get that sharp 9 sound. Same thing in the Beatles. It's a very blues-based sound. Now, when we flip that over to something like Steely Dan, we find it in the same exact usage, but the context is a little different. This is a really cool example. Check this out. There it is. There it is again. There it is again. And then we go into Peg, right? So that intro is so cool because we start on G major, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna walk our bass line down chromatically, right? But each subsequent chord is gonna switch from major to our sharp 9, dominant sharp 9 chord. F major 7, E7 sharp 9, E flat major 7, D7 sharp 9, and then, right? And then we go into our normal thing. So that is a little bit different in the sense of it's not as much based on, I feel like the Jimi Hendrix version is really based on like that just wanting to get that blues sound. Versus the Steely Dan intro, it's almost like a little bit, it's bridging the gap, I feel like, between the Jimi Hendrix stuff and maybe more of a jazz context, which is completely different. Now, in a jazz context, by the way, that tune, Peg, is like super, super interesting. I think we might talk about it in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. But in a jazz context, the sharp 9 chord can very much be used in that blues context, right? Because obviously jazz is infiltrated totally with blues, and we play a ton of blues in jazz, so that works. We can use it just like that. But another way that we might use it is very often as like a 5 chord in a 2-5-1. Let me show you what I mean. So that's just like a 2-5-1 in F, right? Now I can throw that sharp 9 chord and it works really well as a 5 chord, right? Also as a 6. It's almost like every chord that kind of functions as a 5, we can just use that dominant 7 sharp 9 chord, right? So here's a 1, 4, 3, 6. There's a dominant chord. 2, 5. There's our 5 chord, which is also a dominant chord. Maybe I should clarify. It's like any time we use a 5 chord, we could make it a dominant 7 sharp 9. What would that sound like? It doesn't really work there, to be honest. Yeah, no, so maybe not everywhere, but here's another interesting thing that I'm noticing just now as I'm playing this. I feel like in jazz, a lot of times when we make that dominant chord, that sharp 9 chord, it's often like we'll create this altered sound with it by including the flat 13, which is that A flat. That's a very common usage of it. We can do all kinds of interesting things there. So, for example, I can play this C7 shell, but it's almost like because we're including the sharp 9 and the flat 13, well, now I can just play like an A flat major chord on top, and that gives me the same effect. You know, and as soon as you do that, now you're introducing all kinds of potential things like you can move that around, right? And that creates a really cool sound as well. So in jazz, like we'll kind of use it in more of a dominant context where, well, it's dominant in all uses, but meaning more of like a 5 chord type of thing where you can create a whole bunch of different colors with it, and it's super useful that way. But yeah, I was checking out a little bit of Jimi Hendrix, and I was reminded of this chord because I heard it and I was like, wow, that just sounds so much like this Hendrix sound, hence the reason that it got dubbed the Hendrix Chord. It makes complete sense. But of course, that chord is used all over the place. We hear it in the Beatles, we hear it in Steely Dan, and we hear it a ton in jazz, but the context might be slightly different. It was something I was listening to, and I said that might make a cool, quick video. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.